Okay, so this is what we need for the next part of the build. We have our chassis that we've built, the guide wheel, the two motors, and we've placed the motor wires up through the slots, right? We will also need the top part of the chassis. We will need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spacers. We will need 10 screws, count them 10, and we will need your trusty screwdriver. So at the end of the day, we want to fix this chassis up here. So let's begin. Okay, so the first part is I am going to take 5 spacers and 5 screws. We are going to place the spacers in the center hole here, the bottom of these extreme T shapes here, and these 2 small holes here. Okay, so let's start with the 2 small holes at the extreme. Remember, we are looking at the smaller hole, not the bigger hole. So what I would do is that I'll first take a screw. I would place this screw through the hole like so. Yeah. And I'm going to take a spacer and I'm going to screw it on like this. And I'm going to do the same for the other hole. So let's find the hole. Right. Get a spacer. And like this. You don't even need a screwdriver for this part. You can just hand tighten it for now. Next, the middle hole. Okay, I'm looking at this hole over here. This one. Same thing, I'm going to put a screwdriver up through the hole. Over there. You can see it's right nestled in the center. I'm going to use my finger to hold it down, flip it around, and I'm going to take the spacer to screw it on there. Okay, so it goes on like this. Okay, so the next part is the interesting part. Now, so far I've told you to hand tighten everything, right? This one, I want you to reach down to the base of this T-shaped hole here, slide a screw up, take a spacer, screw it on, but I do not want you to tighten it, okay? So what I want you to do is to just screw it on so that it doesn't fall off, and it should be able to kind of move a little bit here and there. Okay, so it should have a little bit of wiggle room. I'll tell you why later on. And do the same for the other T. So I'm going to slide up a screw here. Going to hold it down with my finger and taking the last spacer, slide it on here. Same thing, I don't want to tighten it. I want to just screw it on so that it doesn't fall out. It can still move. Alright? So we are done fixing up the spacers for the bottom chassis. Next, we are going to place the top chassis on top, like so. So you'll find that the holes will align very nicely for the middle and the back too. So let's go ahead and screw those on. So this hole comes here. I'm going to screw that on. This comes here. Let's screw that on too. The center hole is over here. Let's go ahead and screw that on too. Alright, so we've got 3 of the 5 screws on. Next, we are going to screw on the front too. Remember I told you right at the start that we are going to give it some wiggle room, and this is the reason why, because we need to have this E shape here form the space for this fella to come through. So it's going to be up to you to find out what's the best optimal position. But for me, it's going to be somewhere around here. Once you find a slot that lines up the spacer and the screw, you can go ahead to screw that on. And now what I can do is that I can turn it around and tighten the bottom screw. Remember, the bottom screw wasn't tightened before. Let's go ahead and tighten that up now. And we are going to do the same for the other side. So remember, look for the space in the E that will align your spacer and the screw. And let's screw that on. Make sure that the bottom doesn't slide out. It's sturdy enough. So it's a bit crooked. I want to straighten that up a bit before I tighten it up. Okay. So it is rather straight. So let's go ahead and tighten that up now. Tighten the bottom. And there we have it. The upper chassis is fixed. There's still one more thing that we need to do though. You see these wires sticking out all over the place? It's very unsightly. So what I want to do is that I want to slide it up to the top chassis, because most of the time we're going to place our battery pack on the top chassis. So I want easy access to the motor wires, and there is a square hole right here. That's the spot that I want to, if you look here, I'm going to take my fingers, fat as they are going to slide in the middle, and they are going to push the two wires up the middle square hole. Slide it up like so. And I'm going to do the same for the other motor wires. So I'm going to gather them. Going to gather them in my fingers. Going to put them here and slide it up the middle hole like so. So I've got two wires peeking out like this. Okay, we have basically finished building the chassis of the Magician chassis car, and this is what it should look like right now. Okay, so we've got the two decks of the chassis. We've got the spacers in between the two decks. Now this allows us to place sensors and other components in between the two decks. We have got two motors attached. We've got a guide wheel attached on two long spacers. And we have got our wires from our motors peeking out from here. Okay, red, black, each from a motor. So the challenge now is to get this car moving. Now the teacher is going to pass you a battery pack. You can place the battery pack anywhere on the top chassis, or if you want to, you can try to attach it in between the two chassis so that you can save space on the top for other components. I leave it up to you. The challenge now is for you to see whether you can make the car move forward or whether you can make the car move backwards. So that's a challenge for you. So the batteries and the battery pack will be provided to you guys, yeah? So I hope you had fun building this chassis, and I hope you have fun making your car move. This is basically how a Magician chassis would be assembled. And when you next go up to the ALP room, you will be shown how to further add on parts onto the chassis and how different sensors and components can be added onto the chassis to make it more cool. So we're going to be playing with lights, sound, and other fun stuff. So with that, till the next time I see you, thank you class.